Hey guys, this is CasualNerdHammer.net, and I just came back from a tournament this past weekend on Saturday called Orctoberfest, and it's a tournament ran every year by real good guy John out of Lidditz, Pennsylvania, and I had a pretty decent turnout, 14 people. Hoping for a little bit more, but I still ran a great event, and it was a good time. So the night before, me and Rob get a practice game together, and I'm running my Abyssal Orcs versus his Skaven, Ratkin. This is a practice game, and I call it Abyssal Orcs because I'm running so many slave orcs for Orktoberfest. Kind of fluffy, kind of not though, because the list I feel is pretty good, and I can't take credit for it. Feud from the Mantic forums, and he plays a lot in Universal Battle. Saw his list, talked to him about it a little bit, and I just pretty much stole it and asked if I could steal it. And so that's what I'm playing. The list only varies in one area, and I'll explain that in a little bit here. So on my left side, I have a unit or a troop of orc riders. I have my grotesques, who they look a little small, but I love those models. I got my horde here, my iron caster in behind, my unit of lesser golems. The iron caster has surge, of course, for the golems. Um, so yeah, that's the left flank, and we are just playing kill because Oktoberfest is pretty much all about kill. There are objectives to grab, but they're just bonus points, and they're 5 or 6 here or there, but it's still on a 20 nil system, so it's a small percentage. It really matters what you kill. The 20 nil system is based on kill. So I got a unit of another horde of orc slaves, another horde of orc slaves. I got a troop of orc slaves. I have a fire team, and the fire team is where the list differentiates from Feud's list. He had a rocket launcher and an item. I have 2 fire teams. So there's Basusu, who suspiciously looks like, I think, the mask. Was that the mask, or is that, I don't remember anymore. I got my slave driver there. And then over on my right side, I have my other fire team, my unit of Basusu Gargoyles, another Gore Rider unit, and a unit of Abyssal Half Breeds. Items in my list, pretty much the Grotesques have Pathfinder, and the Golems have Elite. So on Rob's side, he took a good look at what this tournament really was, and it was kill. So he brought Ratkin, and he brought a lot of shooting. So he has a unit of what are slaves, I guess. He has a weapons team there. Caster, I think it's Lightning Bolt Caster, and also rallies. Maybe not rallies, but inspires. The wagon in the back is a, oh my god, I'm gonna forget now. Death Engine, another Death Engine. So these guys shoot this like D6 plus 7 shots. It's like piercing 1 or 2. So nasty. He has a horde of shock troops in the back, a regiment of slaves there, another weapons team in the middle. This is a unit of, or a horde of blight. I keep saying unit. Horde of blight. He has another caster in the back, another caster there. I think they both have lightning bolts. Another death engine, another regiment of slaves. He has another another weapons team tucked in next to his horde of brutes. Yeah, that's a lot of shots. That's a lot of piercing shots. That's a lot of damage at range. And, we do have a decent amount of uh, terrain on the table. And the scenario that we're playing is kill. So, I got to get over there. I could sit. If it was a tournament game, do I sit back? Probably not. He still has enough movement to get to where he needs to get to shoot things and kill things, and he can do a lot of wounds per turn. So I don't know what the ideal situation is for me. I can't sit back. I can't shoot. Do we play for a draw? Yeah, it's a practice game. Do I play for a draw in a tournament? Maybe, but I feel like I'm lucky to get a draw. So I feel like the only thing I could do is push up. I have a lot of units. I have a lot of target saturation. Just push up and try to punch him in the face like my list does. So turn 1, I get first turn, and I'm just trying to get the jump on him here. I push up. I'm a little rusty. I have played some UB games since the last GT, but I haven't played a live game, and I don't really like this positioning here. I didn't give him a charge. As you can see, my dice was marking as far as charge range, but I'm just kind of piled up here. I'm trying to get some cover for my half breeds because they really are the muscle. That's just Chaff out in front. So over here in the center, I do bring the gargoyles to fly them over the building. Basusu, I fly as such. I'm really just wanting to threaten, get in range of threatening something, whether it's this death engine, slaves, I don't know. But Basusu, I'm kind of running a gambit there. I'm a little worried about my positioning, but I really am not sure where else to put her. I at least put her in range of her gargoyles so that you know she can at least inspire them. I'm pushing up. The lanes are pretty tight here. I got woods right there. I got another woods over there. Two buildings. You would think this type of terrain setup would be good for me for how much shooting he has, but really I gotta go get him. So yeah, terrain isn't the end all answer to fighting a gunline type army. And that's just the way I push up in the center, just trying to build layers here so that as the wounds definitely come in, that eventually I'm going to get my troops in position. I'm not really excited about my deployment. I feel like I have some strong flanks, but really flanks don't matter here. I really need to be pushing up as hard as I can into his face. Um, I have the muscle to beat him, but to the point where I don't need flanks. But with the way things are set up, these buildings, we use the whole base as the building. So yeah, he has some shooting lanes, and it's tight for me to get in, especially with my hordes. So yeah, on the other side, I'm just pushing up. These guys do have Pathfinder to Grotesque, so kind of put them on the flank where the trees were, that they can at least make the best of their item. I think I surged these guys up a little bit, getting closer here. On his turn, yeah, these guys tried to charge and they're yellow bellied and they failed it. They were trying to charge the gargoyles, which yeah, I think he was better off not even bothering with that charge because that would have gave my horde some positioning and a better look. So he does push his other slaves up right in front. And this is what I'm talking about. Like I can't even multi-charge here now, just because these guys can't fit over. These guys won't be able to make the wheel to make this contact. This was a smart move, and it was just like when he did this, I'm immediately realizing that I'm rusty and absolutely need this practice. On this side, yeah, he stays put. He knows what he has to do, and he's gonna do it. He's gonna execute. He's gonna fire. He needs to fire. He has his slaves ready to chaff when they come over. He does have a hard hitting blight unit there, ready to clean up anything that needs to be cleaned up. And over here, yeah, shooting does 6 wounds to the Gores, 9 wounds to the Gargoyles, 5 wounds to the Susu, and 2 wounds to the other orcs. So yeah, and then the worst possible thing, these guys are 9-11, and he ends up wavering them, which is absolutely awful. At least if they're gone, my half breeds can charge and clear up these guys, and the half breeds are going to take shots to the face, but at least I'm threatening a little bit more. This is going to waste a turn, and that's unfortunate. The Gargoyles, who are also 9/11, obviously they're gone, and Basusu does stick, so she's not wavered or anything, which is nice. And over here, yeah, the other orcs that only got 2 wounds didn't have my reroll close enough, and he was able to pop them off. That's a little bit unfortunate. I could have used that extra chaff on this side. Turn 2, orcs. Yeah, nothing I can do on this side. I was trying to come up with some kind of fancy way that I could make this work, but it just couldn't work. I decided to move my fire team over on this side to just support this flank. He's really built up on this flank, and I'm not. These half breeds I probably should have just brought to the left and around the building. Hindsight's always 2020. Basusu, didn't know what to do with her. I was thinking about taking her into this weapons team just so that I can clear that out and then position in a way that I'm kind of threatening flanks of the hill. Not that flanks matter, but there's a nice little range down the line here. I decided to take him into this death engine on the hill. Might have been a mistake because I'm not going to pop the death engines. They're fearless, like 16, and Basusu only has 8 attacks. I think this was just a bad play, and this is why we play the practice games, right? So I'm pushing up here. I'm threatening him to come into the woods. I don't think he has Pathfinder on the brutes. So if he wants to bring him in, I think the Grotesque can hold in their countercharge would be pretty devastating. Just pushing up here in the center, pushing up into the woods because I can't really maneuver too well. And I mean that's obviously something in this list that I need practice with is maneuvering these big hordes. I mean these are the size of night hordes. And people always say they're kind of unruly, but even myself, I think they're unruly. But it's about layering my units and being able to get across the table and take and absorb wounds and have my muscle prepared to do the damage that they need to do. Yep. So that's just on this side. I think I might have. No, I couldn't even fireball. I just think I just surged these guys up to get them closer. Um, yeah, not much action there. But Susu, yeah, she only does 3 wounds to the death engine, and that just leaves her in a bad position. She's an inch behind, which we're on this hill here. That opens up a charge from the shock troops. I mean, numerous charges basically. So turn 2 for the rats. He shifts his lines around a little bit. He brings his slaves up to take a chaff up the grotesques, and he's positioning his blight in a way that to defend this flank. And he brings these slaves up, and these slaves they're nasty, and they I forget what their nerve is, like 14, 16, and if they have rallying around, that goes up. Um, so yeah, they're tough to get through. You don't realize how much of a speed bump they are. They're not like in Warhammer where you just hit them, blow them up, and then you're good to go. Like you really have to make sure you're dedicating enough to them to get them out of the way. So he brings his rats into this unit. That's not a bad play. Why waste the shooting on them when they pretty much can pop with just another wound? And now he's bringing this flank over to prepare for the threats in the middle. I think Rob's playing this game absolutely perfect at this point. I wouldn't say his dice are incredible on his D6+7 rolls or anything. He's just picking good targets, focusing, and nailing things. Like here's a perfect example: 8 wounds. I'm in cover. I'm in cover from the Death Engine, and he still puts 8 wounds on him between the weapons team, Lightning Bolt, and a Death Engine. These guys are defense 5. I do have regen on them, but that's a lot of wounds. And here we go. We got 12 on the horde in the center. He does double charge these Basusu with his shock troops and the Death Engine perfectly legal. He's not corner to corner or anything. Does 12 wounds to her, so she's short-lived. Turn 3, Basusu, yeah, she's dead. My counter charges, what can I do? He gives me flank here. I'm actually touching the wood, so I am hindered. Hopefully 50 attacks, even hindered, will be enough to take them out. And I just positioned the grotesques in another way. Like I'm not gonna say I did play the most strategic game ever, but it's a lot of wounds, man. I mean, when you're looking, my heavy hitters getting hit for 8, 9 wounds just in one round of shooting, that's pretty nasty. When their nerve is 16, 18, a bad roll, bad nerve check can take them off the board real easy. Yeah, he decides to bring the slaves into here. Just why not just send them in, get a couple extra wounds. And over here, yeah, he brings the slaves into my Abyssal Dwarfs. Oh, I'm sorry, this is me. My bad. I bring that center unit into his slaves, bring the half-breed unit into his slaves. And yeah, after combat, I do get the slave unit and reposition as such. I feel like I'm chaffing him up, but he doesn't need to be charging me. He has enough shooting to handle that. And over here, yeah, I do 5 wounds to the slaves and don't pop them. And I don't even think I wavered them. So yeah, that's rough. The woods really hurt me there. And over here, yeah, make sure to work on them with the half-breeds. And I position as such that now I'm starting to threaten things on this side. If they can survive around shooting, they're in a good position to really wreak some havoc on this side. And my weapons team, I move over to try to take shots. I was just out of range here by like half an inch to shoot at his weapons team. That's unfortunate. On this side, yeah, he positions his weapon teams up just to trap up my slaves. He is going to take more shots at him. He got lightning bolt here. Actually, that guy probably can't see them because of height 1. But Death Engine's ready to shoot. The weapons team's ready to shoot. And over here, he decides not to take the slaves back in favor of shooting, which is a good option, I think. And his shooting goes off. He does 13 wounds to my half-breeds. I mean, they're only defense 4. It's probably reasonable to expect that, and they're definitely going to be gone after that nerve check. His shooting over here, 17 wounds to the orcs. They're only nerve 20, 22, so they're going to be done, and more shooting to the grotesques. They're up to 12. They're going to be done too. So yeah, after combat, of course, both of the half-breeds are after shooting, after the nerve checks. Half-breeds gone, slave unit gone, grotesques gone. So yeah, it's brutal. Turn 4, Ratkin. I'm sorry, turn 4, Abyssal Orcs. I go into his weapons team. I go into his slaves with my troop. hopefully the troops can handle them. Um, yeah, and there's just nothing to do. I think this is I do shoot and waver those guys. I still don't get rid of those slave orcs, and I got rid of the weapons team. And in turn four is counter charges with the blight and the brutes. That slave unit's going to be gone. He decides not to countercharge here in favor of shooting, and we call it there because there really isn't much left. I mean, I don't think. I think with all his shooting still on the table, I only took out two slave units and weapons team. I think with all his shooting and his combat, I mean, there's just nothing I'm going to be able to do. And yeah, this was it was a little disheartening a little bit. I mean, I knew going into it, I think Rob's list was really good for this for kill, and the terrain and everything. I didn't feel really good going in, and once that shooting started opening up, yeah, it was pretty nasty. So yeah, that's the end of the game. I'm gonna soapbox here for like a few minutes before the tournament. So if you really don't care about what I'm gonna say, then you can turn off at this point. And the other battle reports will be coming up for the tournament. Hopefully, it gets better than this, and I don't face too many gun lines. But I've been reading on Fanatics on the on the Facebook page, and the hot button topic right now is gun lines. And it just so happens that this is the scenario that I went up against in this, and I kind of feel like the seasoned players of Kings of War are doing a disservice um, to some of the newer players, because the newer players are asking, how do I deal with gun lines? And a lot of people are saying, well, it's terrain. You got to play terrain. You got to play objectives. You got to do this and that. And I just think that's wrong. I think that's the wrong attitude to have towards it. You can't just have terrain being the catch-all to good, solid strategy against gunline. I mean, there are just some gunlines that you're not going to be able to get. I mean, I have as much control over terrain as my opponent has over terrain, and I guess my issue with it is I'm always coming from a competitive stance when it comes to these games, and that sometimes gets me in trouble because I'm always thinking competitively, and I'm thinking within the terms of tournament play, not just like, hey, you and your buddy are in the basement playing a game like me and Rob are here, but we are prepping for a tournament, and using the tournament guidelines and rules. Um, so in that respect, I feel like that there's situations, there's a scenario is kill. There is a kill scenario in the game, and like I said before, I have as much control over the terrain as Rob does. We're alternating pieces, we're placing it where we want to place it, and yeah, I can sit back and try to take a draw. I didn't do that in this game because we want to see what our list can do. In a tournament environment, I would try to sit back, but then again, I mean, even if there's objectives on the table and he can push up and eliminate 80% of my army, okay, so I grab a loot marker. Well, I'm gonna get shot, and I feel like by just using a catch-all like, oh, we'll play with more terrain or da 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 da, like I feel like that's kind of doing a disservice to newer players that are coming to this and like really struggling with gun lines. I said it when the flying nerf came out. I said players are just gonna go on to the next thing to bitch about, and that's gonna be shooting, and that's exactly what's going on. Like players are complaining about shooting, but shooting is really strong, and to not. I don't want to give anything away about the tournament reports that are coming up, but my two fire teams played very well. I mean, shooting and being able to force a nerve check just by doing one wound, I feel is super powerful, and I think that's part of I think that's part of what's wrong with shooting is the fact that they can force a nerve check with one wound. A five item 5 point item warbow can force a nerve check on a 400 point character and possibly rout him. Um, that's really powerful and something that would come over from Warhammer. I like that it was 25% casualties to force a leadership check, and I'm wondering how that would play, and I would really like to try how that would play in Kings of War. Like you have to do 25% of their wounds to force that nerve check. Um, but yeah, so I'm trying not. I'm honestly really trying not to post on Fanatics because uh, I don't share a lot of the opinions that come out of the higher level players in the UK and stuff. I don't agree with their sentiment on the game. Um, but yeah, so that's my soapbox a little bit. But as we see, we'll go through these games and the tournament and see how I do with this list. I really like the list. I know it didn't perform here, and this is a special situation where this list, Rob's list, is specifically built to just shoot everybody up in a kill scenario, and that's great because he's making a list for the meta, which is the meta also includes what the tournament rules are and the scenarios of tournament rules, and that's great. I mean, this tournament being, we say it's kill, there's actually scenarios, but like I said, the scenarios only count for bonus points in the tournament, and those points matter. They really do matter when you're only playing 3 games in a tournament. Like, every point you get is important, and I'm not trying to downplay the scenarios, because, well, I don't want to foreshadow too much, but you see that though every single point is important in your tournament. So um, with that said, what am I saying here? I got off track. So yeah, so Rob built this list. So I wanted to see how this performs, and I really like this list. I think it will perform great in objective base, kill base. It doesn't matter. Like, a lot of scenario, a lot of scenery, no scenery. I think it's a good list. And being this is the very first time I ever played the list, I quickly understood what I needed to recalculate moving forward and playing this list. And you can read battle reports about this specific list on Feud and on Mantic site, but like I read those, and I still, like, I need to see it for myself. I need to understand and go through that thought process. And I know one practice game isn't enough, but at least it made me realize, like, there was just some simple mistakes that I could change moving forward. So yeah, this is a little bit long-winded at the end of the video, and like I said before, you guys can turn it off a long time ago. But yeah, I'm excited about this tournament. I had a great time at it, and I have some really great games coming up. Some of the most strategic games. I mean, when I look at the 3 games that I played, like, there wasn't many mistakes. I mean, there's probably 2 games where there are no mistakes, and yeah, it was tough competition, and I feel like I played pretty well, and hopefully I do the Abyssal Orc some justice. But yeah, that's the report, guys. It's the pregame basically to the tournament. Tournament reports are coming up. They're going to come out rapid fire. I'm going to do them as fast as possible because I haven't given you guys content in a while, and it's time to get the content going. So yeah, man, we'll catch you on the next one.